Thank you, everybody, for joining in. I welcome you to this second roundtable. Space today is all about investors in the regenerative space. My name is Pranav Khanna. I am here representing Lower Labs today and also ReFi by South. Lower Labs is a marketing and comms agency based in the US. We also are validators for 5 chains in the Cosmos ecosystem. I am based in Mumbai and I am leading ReFi by South, an initiative by Lower Labs for localizing and scaling climate action in the global south. Natalie, I welcome you. All yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Pranav. Hi, everyone. Excited to be here. It's such a lively and different set of people. I'm connecting from Colombia, and I just wanted to kick off. I wanted to hear where is people calling. I was here in Middle East. So I will ask everyone if they can put in the chat, where are they connecting from? I'm just curious to see where are we all from. Italy, Brazil, Frankfurt, Dubai, Madrid, Argentina, Suriname, Sydney, India, Springfield, Ohio, France, Kenya. Oh, this is so cool. Barcelona, Cologne. So yeah, it's really New York. So it's really like a broad community. Nicaragua based in Mexico, connecting from Yucatan, Canada. So that's awesome. So indeed, I think like this organization that you have done, Pranav, with John, like it's really reaching like a broad audience of people. So yeah, excited about that. And I'm really honored to be able to facilitate the first part of the conversation. So as Pranav was saying, we'll have 30 minutes and I'll be talking to David and Nelly from BFA and Summit from Climate Angels. And so my first question for you, we'll have 30 minutes. So I'll try to ask short questions, short answers to keep this lively. So if you can introduce yourself in one sentence. So my name is Natalie Vergara and I'm from Mercy Corp Ventures and Impact Investors supporting visionary entrepreneurs to increase the resilience of underserved communities. And I will pass it over to Nelly.
Hi, good day, everyone. I'm Nelly Ramirez with BFA Global, based in Mexico, and I am working in BFA and with innovation initiatives.
My name is David Del Ser. I'm a representative for in Madrid. I lead the climate initiatives within BFA, and we're a small but global impact innovation firm. We do both consulting and investing, launching and accelerating local startups. Thank you for having us here.
So, to give all the entrepreneurs that are raising rounds, and sorry for the investors, I'm not sure we'll have LPs or foundations that will invest in us here. Can we explain to the entrepreneurs what is it that we invest? So basically, I think we already gave some hints, but I would like us to be very clear in defining like at what stage do we invest, sector, geographies, ticket, and instrument.
Let's see if I remember all the elements. I'm still 5. Let me know if there is something I'm missing. But well, a BFA would really have two vehicles that invest in startups. We'll mostly talk about Teca, which is the one where Nelly and I both work. There's also Catalyst Fund, but I'll tell you both quickly. So Teca is essentially a venture launcher. It stands for Triggering Exponential Climate Action, and we invest before there's a company. We rally local talent so far from East Africa, but we want to expand to Mexico, Colombia, hopefully Chile. That's why we're fundraising. But we work with local talent, gender balanced, and we invite them to join what we call a wave, which is a group of people that go forward together to try to launch companies that are really actually understand that are having impact both for the communities, the human communities, the biosphere, and the atmosphere. So these companies don't exist yet, right? We form them. We help form them. We have Samke from Registry, who's here on the screen, and we'll talk later. She can tell you, if you want, about how that experience has been. The ticket size is essentially an initial stipend, which is a grant, until they form companies. And we, together with the whole community that's helping this way go forward, we select, in this case, 7 companies and give them a $55,000 check. That's essentially a convertible grant, meaning if they don't raise much money is forgiven, but if they do raise more than $1 million, they have to return the 55K. That's Teca, again, triggering experiential climate action. It's a venture launcher following the model that Entrepreneur First, Carbon 13, Antler have pioneered, but focusing just on climate. Catalyst Fund is our sister, it's an older sister actually, has been working for 7 years, has a portfolio of 60 companies, and the ticket size there is $200,000. Half of it comes in cash and half of it comes in venture building services from our firm. And it's also like Teca, focused on climate resilience. Tech for climate resilience, typically fintech, but it can be other types of exponential technologies that can achieve climate resilience for vulnerable populations and the ecosystems they live in the global south. So I don't know, Natalie, if I forgot some of the five.
No, I think so. So basically in the sector, anything that has to do with climate resilience or financial resilience, we invest before, like there's even a company or idea stage, or also like if you already have a company, geographies. Where do you invest? Do you have any?
So Catalyst Fund has invested globally. We're now, through Catalyst, investing just in Africa, but all over Africa, Northeast, Southwest. In the latest cohort, we literally had 7 different countries. And then Teca follows a more geographically focused approach. The first wave was focused on the blue economy. So as a topic, blue economy in East Africa, which we're soon will be announcing that we're going to launch it again, another wave for next year. And we're trying to go to other geographies. So if somebody has $1 million or so to spare, let us know.
Great. And Sunit, how about you in Climate Angels? What state, sector, geographies do you invest in?
So as of now, we're looking at very traditional, climate tech sectors, which could be clean mobility, clean electricity, low carbon agriculture, circular economy. But we don't invest in assets. So no project finance. We only invest in our core technologies that can lead to a lower carbon future. So very IP based, or it could be brands, or it could be scalable models, but something that directly we know is on the mitigation side. I was earlier talking to Pranav, and we should start looking at adaptation very soon. But as of now, we only can invest in on the mitigation size. Our typical check size would be anything between $100,000 to $250,000. We give a platform such that you can pitch, you can present to angel investors, and then they collate their funds and we deploy capital. Typically, the instrument is going to be equity and convertibles or something like that. We don't have a grant vehicle yet, and there's no debt also on our platform. Again, till now, we've invested in India-specific solutions. So it doesn't matter where the entrepreneur is incorporated, but the initial go-to-market or the initial problem should be very India-specific, and then we'll see how we can help them raise more capital to go to other geographies. But I'm working on how we can create a different on a couple of more climate angels in the world to deploy equity capital per se. So yeah, that's a very quick. We made about 7 investments last year, and we deployed in total about £3 million.
Great. So also climate, but later stage 200 tickets and India solutions. That's awesome. And just for Eric review, like all the folks out there, I will answer this question since we're also an investor quickly. So we also invest early stage climate solutions. We invest from anything in terms of climate adaptation and food sector, frontier fintech, e-mobility, and so forth. We also invest between 100K and 250K. We invest using equity or quasi-equity. So yeah, no grants, as our folks from VFA. And the other, it's that we invest in what we call emerging markets. So basically Africa, Asia, and Latin America. We currently have 42 companies in our portfolio. And so moving on, Nelly, I would ask you to take the lead on talking a bit about what are the challenges. I know we're here and we're raising money and we have all these solutions, and we really want to invest in solutions for climate challenges and climate change. But yeah, what are the main challenges you're seeing in order for this to be effective?
Well, I think that the main challenges investing in Global South is there isn't a enabling environment to foster innovation and trust, and there isn't also a proper infrastructure for innovators or entrepreneurs to come together to thrive in most, at least in most Latin American countries, and I'd say it's very similar in most of the Global South. So these local ecosystems that are connected to international stakeholders they're almost non-existent. So there is a lot of trust building to be done to connect this, to take these local ecosystems connected to global networks. A lot of collaboration and just understanding and working with this concept is challenging in Latin America, and the trust building. So I think we can talk about the traditional barriers like political instability, lack of infrastructure, lack of funding, but it all goes back to the need to build this enabling environment that goes through ecosystems, this trust building, and connecting the local expertise with international stakeholders for that trust to happen, for that collaboration to happen, and eventually for innovation to thrive. So one of the great things that Tech does is that it connects strangers or people who are not necessarily working together, brings them together and builds trust, and then builds companies. Because in Latin America, there is a very, very low interpersonal trust, which means it's very hard for people to come together and build ideas together. So I think this initiative is innovative not only because it creates companies addressing innovation within the climate space, but it also because it's trying to start to build a new fabric of innovators and entrepreneurs in a very challenging environment. From the climate justice perspective, we should all be focusing on this because we're most affected of climate and least responsible to the effects of climate change.
Yeah, indeed. As you mentioned, I think like one for entrepreneurs can be very lonely and challenging, but also for us as investors. So anything that we can do to work together, it's a great way to tackle these challenges. How about you, Sumit? What do you see as the main challenges to making sure that we can effectively finance these climate solutions?
No, I completely agree with Nelly's point on, Global South having some kind of trust deficiency. So that always becomes a challenge for entrepreneurs, especially across ecosystems. The other thing that I've noticed is when you talk to investors or traditional investors, and the answer is that climate is somebody else's problem. It's government needs to take care of it, or there are some very excellent foundations and donors who are taking care of it. I don't know how to solve it. It's too big. You look at a city like Delhi and you see the air pollution here, it's overwhelming. He's like, how am I going to solve it? So it's very difficult because, we deploy capital and we're raising capital. So when you go and raise private capital, so a lot of times there's a lot of resistance that it's overwhelming. And more than overwhelming, it's just, I can't solve this, or this is not my problem. So that's I think something that's been consistent. A lot of effort in the last one or 2 years has gone in to convert a few people. So I typically come from a consumer internet space, for lack of any other word. And it's very difficult to convince these internet investors or people who've made their money in internet that, hey, climate is going to be different. It's going to be more long term. You need to be slightly more patient to see results and things like that. But so two things: trust deficiency, and it's not my problem.
So basically, it's like we need to achieve that we're all part of the problem, but we're also all part of the solution. And David, how about you? Any additional challenge? And I also have to ask, is there a story behind your photos? Like your photo and Nelly? So you can also give us the hints while you answer, like if there's an additional challenge.
I'll add this on my end. This, what you can see behind I'm gonna maybe slaughter the Swahili, but it's called Popoko I'm sorry.
Mikoko Pamoja.
Thank you. See, I was slaughtering. It's the very first mangrove in all of Africa, and I got certified to produce blue carbon credits. So that's one of the places we went to visit with Samke and the other 29 fellows. We went to see some coral reefs and some ecotourism sites and aqua farming, and I can show you all the pictures you want. All of those you can see on the video that I think I share about, but that's a beautiful place where the community is deriving value because of all the people in the world are paying to keep the mangrove growing, right? So that's the story for my background. I don't know, Nelly, you want to mention yours?
My background is in Bosawas. It's a biosphere reserve in Nicaragua, one of the biggest in the world. And this is protected by an organization that I've been a member of for the past 20 years that's called Centro de Entendimiento con la Naturaleza. And it was reforested and has been working with local communities to restore the forest and to create alternative livelihoods for the communities living in the forest, and is now providing water to 40,000 people from that restoration effort. So it's in Jinotega, Nicaragua. I'm going to put the Wikipedia link.
The only thing, Natalie, that if I can still add, I think Nelly and Sumi already kind of mentioned it. There's, of course, trust problems, right? But the lack of the operating innovation ecosystem, where I think it translates into, is the three key ingredients behind an innovation: the talent, the idea, and the capital, that hopefully is local talent, science-based idea, and patient capital. They just don't connect so readily. They don't find each other easily. And that's why, despite the urgency and despite the big desire from many super talented people to go and do something, not enough is happening, right? And that's in a way what we think we're solving for with TechCat. We just position all those ingredients, and then we essentially get 30 fellows that have never met before. They're complete strangers. They get together on a plane. They get to a beautiful place. We picked a nice hotel since we were at it, might as well. And they get to know each other. They've been listening to some of the top leaders, in this case, the blue economy, to just get inspiration and draw ideas. And then we say, here's the money. Just get traction. We'll cover you at least for some time. And then they surprise us, and then they make us very proud, right? But it's forcing those ingredients together in the same place at the same time that is the function of the innovation ecosystem. And when you don't have it, then it just doesn't happen. And it's very tricky to start, as Sumit was saying, climate, well, isn't that all the government's problem? Like, sure, it's their problem, but it's everyone's too, right? But it's not obvious how to start.
So, I love this, how you summarize it, basically getting together the talent, the idea, and the capital for them to develop it. And I think it's a nice transition to the other question that I wanted to ask, in terms of to be completely honest, I'm quite a beginner in the whole Web3, ReFi, blockchain, crypto, all this. I consider myself an ignorant before. Now I am in the beginner stage. So, but I'm really amazed about all these amazing solutions that at the end we're using a technology to solve a real live problem. And yeah, I'm just curious if each one of you can share one solution that they have seen that has really amazed them, and how either the use of technology or the use of a solution to address a climate challenge. And
sure,
David, if you want to keep going,
since I'm on the roll,
then I'll pass it over to Sumit and Nelly.
But you're asking for a specific Web3?
No, it doesn't need to be a Web3, but basically one example of a technological solution that you have seen for climate challenge that impressed you in a way, just for inspiration.
So I'm happy to provide a Web3 example on the carbon finance market. That one is seriously facing a trust problem, right? Voluntary carbon markets, there are deep problems there. And there are a number, I'm not going to quote any or name any, but there are a number of Web3 super interesting solutions that tackle all the different problems, hopefully all of them, or at least most of them, and that hopefully we can also compose together into a full-on marketplace from enabling startups to get going and so they can start capturing carbon, because there is a big supply problem, to essentially offering great traceability that everybody can trust that the what's in here is immutable. This is truly what happened. So carbon finance, I think, is a great example of how technology can leapfrog paper-based or old approaches, and we need that yesterday. So that would be my example.
I think that there's a few inspiring initiatives for example, Ethic Hub, that allows you to use their platform to invest in small farmers in Latin America, and currently working in Mexico, Honduras, Brazil, and Colombia, and Ecuador. I think they have very interesting a very interesting portfolio, a very interesting initiative in the regenerative finance space, and they're working with unbacked farmers, so they're like their very holistic approach, not only environment sustainability, but also financial inclusion. I'd also say here in Mexico, EcoChain, to track and verify the origin of sustainable products, to pursue, to help consumers to make more informed decisions. You have a lot of carbon credit markets in Latin America as well, in Colombia and Brazil. Aircon is one of them. As part of, I think this is also, if I would go back to the barriers question, I think this lack of knowledge of these initiatives, and for that, there's this initiative, this global network that we are hosting in BFA that's called CFAR, Climate Innovation for Adaptation and Resilience. And as part of that effort, we have a working group on blockchain for resilience to understand what initiatives are out there that are using blockchain technology to promote adaptation and action within the climate space. And we've mapped 52 initiatives, and we've found there mainly like 50% of them in the global south, of course, everything based in emerging markets, are focused on carbon finance. And there's a lot of opportunity in ocean conservation, land restoration, climate investment, agrotech still, that there's a big opportunity there in other markets as well. So in summary, I would say those three initiatives are inspiring in the region for Latin America, and I'd say that there a lot of effort has to be made, like the ones that we're doing in CFAR, to kind of understand and map. Just to begin with, what is regenerative finance? What kind of Web3 tools? How is this a tool, not a means, not an ends, etc. And how this can really be a trust building. It can it's not only good because of technology good and it's scalable, but also because it allows for trust building and collaboration across networks that could be really powerful. It can take you and it can make the region, or in any region in the global south, make big steps, without having to go to the traditional growth cycle that it has been in the past for investment and innovation to thrive.
Yeah, and I love these examples of how technology enables, one, people to get together without physically being together, and two, to break these barriers of trust that you were talking about. So those are great. And Sumit, how about you share us some examples to inspire us of solutions that you have seen?
We have primarily invested more on the hardware side till now. So most of our investments, be it battery pack manufacturing, be it air pollution, trapping pollution using with non-filter devices that can be deployed in factories or something like that. But there were a few solutions that definitely do come to the top of my mind. One is Varaha, which is built on a blockchain infrastructure. They are mapping agricultural practices and regenerative agricultural practices, and then they are releasing carbon credits. There's another startup I interacted with recently it's called Billion Carbons, which are again doing kind of carbon financing against composting. So financing or getting carbon credits down to composters, and both to large composters and to small composting plants. And again, they are also using a layer of blockchain to deploy or to validate, to create that element of trust. So these are just top of the mind, projects that come to our mind in terms of on the software side. But otherwise, all our 11 or whatever our last year portfolio is, that's all on the hardware, pure patents and IP-backed solutions.
Yeah, it seems that we have in the audience a lot of interesting solutions also. We'll move shortly to the roundtable with the entrepreneurs, but I just wanted to ask you one last quick question, and also as a reminder that we'll stay here for the breakout rooms, but one last question. You all as investors see a lot of entrepreneurs looking for money. And so what's like one tip that you will give to entrepreneurs that when they're looking for you, you wish like, oh, I wish he knew this before approaching me, or I wish he did this better and that could enhance his chances of raising. So one tip for the entrepreneurs that are listening us here that are looking to get financed.
There are no tips. We want to meet you as you are. If you ping me on LinkedIn, there's a very high probability that I'll share my calendar link such that I'll get onto a 30-minute call. Till the time you're in climate. Unfortunately, a lot of non-climate people also do ping me. So just be yourself. I actually don't have a tip. You just need to find the right early stage investor for your stage. And I know that in the VC community, in the early stage investing community, we're not project finance people who take 10 days to reply. We're usually you just need to find the right person in your job. So no tips for you guys. Calendars also over there.
I would echo that, both in the, be yourself, and because we want to be surprised too, right? But also try to understand the fit. Because Sumit was saying, there's got to be climate tech in India. If I go to you with a fintech thing in Africa, you're going to say, well, right? It's a bit of a waste of your time and the investor's time. So that's it. Understand the fit before you go ahead. If only to preserve your time, right? Because as a founder, your time is also worth a lot. Typically, you're the CEO, so it's the most important time in the company. So you also need to be as thoughtful as you can to not waste it.
I would also go by Sumit words in the sense that we really need to change this top-down approach and go more towards a bottom-up and try to understanding and meeting independent entrepreneurs where they are and what they stand for and what they believe or what they want to achieve. So I think it's more on the investors to kind of look at that, be open more for diversity and complexity, and even more so when working with the Global South that works with, a lot of inequalities with very, huge differences, and it's very easy to fall back into what you're used to and just opening to what is different and what could be weak in one sense and very strong in the other. So I would just change the question and go back to where do the investors have to change their lens when reaching out to entrepreneurs?
Oh, I like it. Great. So when do investors need to change the angle when meeting entrepreneurs? I think, Pranav, that's a great question to start out our next roundtable to entrepreneurs. And thank you, David, Nelly, and Sumit. That was amazing. And yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you. And yeah, we'll stay here answering questions and for the roundtable. But Pranav, you can take that questions for the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, thank you so much, Natalie, for taking us through that. David, Sumit, Nelly, amazing. It's always good to have these conversations in terms of just sharing your work. But I think more importantly, just sharing with the community how open everybody is and inviting interest. So thank you so much for that. Some amazing questions.